My partner right now is trying to do a healthy lifestyle and lose some weight and reach some goals of his. And he bought this fancy ass like $500 scale, which I was super nervous about bringing it in. But I was like, okay, I'm going to like be aware of my past and not weigh myself every day, but weigh myself periodically. So I wanted to test myself. And so I weighed myself in the morning and then I pooped. Like, this was it within a 10-minute period. Weighed myself, pooped, weighed myself again, and I gained weight. I went down and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how does that happen? I did not eat anything at all this morning. But I pooped and I gained weight. So that is bullshit.
Welcome to the Joosi Sex Podcast, where my friends and I have raw, unfiltered, and hilarious conversations about all things sex. I'm Alisa Eddy, the founder and CEO of Joosi Sexual Wellness, where we try the toys and help you find the right one for you. Now, on to the podcast. All right, welcome. We are talking about sex and diet culture today. And I have my very special guest, Kim, here. Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
We are going to be discussing some difficult things. So there's a little bit of a content warning. We're having a candid discussion about dieting and eating disorders, disordered eating, and body image. And you need to proceed with caution if this is a triggering subject for you. And just be aware of that, all right, my loves? First of all, how about that orange wine?
It was actually pretty good.
It was good.
It was way better than mine.
I liked it.
Yeah, it was nice and tart, but not like overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared it was going to be too orange peely.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't. It was very orange inside.
Yeah, so we went to a little wine bar right before we came here, and we had some orange wine, which it doesn't actually have oranges in it. It's a different process of how they use the white grapes.
Oh,
and
I didn't realize.
Yeah, and they like keep the peels on and whatever.
Oh.
Rah. Anyways, so it was really good though. It was interesting.
It was really good.
It was really slow, but
Yeah.
it was really good.
Very slow service, but if for a wine bar, I think that's appropriate. But for what we needed, wine bar is definitely not what we need to go to next time.
It was not maybe the best option for
No.
pre-pod course, but that's okay. All right, cool. So we are going to set our intentions for today. The intention of this episode is to, of course, say fuck shame. And the way that we do that is by helping people see that they are not alone, that these really hard, difficult, challenging things that you experience and that you think shame tells you that you're alone and you're weird and you're bad. And we're here to say you're not. There's a lot of people out here that are experiencing that. And we want to make sure that you know you're not alone.
No, you are not.
That's right. All right, so we are not experts on diet culture. We do not have PhDs in diet culture, but we are two women living in this world, and we understand, and we have a lot of experiences to share.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. What is diet culture? I would spend a lot of time just coming up with my own definition, but I think it's better to read you this one that I found. So bear with me because it's kind of technical, but I think it's really good.
Oh.
All right. So at its highest level, diet culture is a system of social beliefs and expectations that values thinness above all. This system equates having a thin body with being healthy, and consequently assumes those in larger bodies are unhealthy, and puts the pursuit of thinness on a moral pedestal. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if you're not thin or aspiring to be so, diet culture works to make you feel guilty, less worthy, or even oppressed.
Yeah, that is is a very clear and good definition, but it's so sad.
It is so fucking sad.
So
right?
sad.
Yeah.
And I feel and identify with so much of that definition.
Mm-hmm.
So much of it.
Yeah, that if you're not, if you're at a time in your life where you're not thin, you have to be trying to be thin.
Absolutely.
And if you're not trying to be thin, there's just this moral problem with that.
Yeah. What's wrong with you? Why are you not aspiring to that? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's
It's a heavy one.
It is heavy.
Yeah.
It is. But these are the kind of things, this is the system that we live under that nobody fucking talks about.
Nope. Yeah.
We just live with it. And I
Yeah.
think saying it out loud and acknowledging it that way has a lot of power.
I think that some people have tried to, but it just somehow it just gets cut. Like it just gets shut off by some other diet fad that comes in. Like we want to embrace those healthy bodies no matter what they look like, but here's this other fad and do this.
Yeah.
Because you can do better than what we're trying to say is acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like it's always both. It's like, bodies that aren't thin are great. They're great. They're great. But anyways, here's how you lose weight. And here's how you stay thin.
Yep.
And it just fucking sucks.
It does.
Yeah. So I was thinking about what kinds of diets I have tried in my life. And I was a teenager in the 90s. So I got to experience the ultra low fat diet fad, which was really, by today's standards, really interesting because, like, for example, instead of getting movie popcorn, what like the diet trick was to get popcorn flavored jelly beans because they have zero fat, but they taste like butter. And so, yeah, and that was like the healthy thing to do.
No.
Because there was no fat and because people were afraid of that. But of course, now you're not getting the fiber and fat is okay. And, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the 90s. They came up with this artificial fat or something, a fat you couldn't digest called Olestra. And they were making potato chips with this stuff. And the...
I'm so disgusted by this. Like, what the hell did that do to your body?
Well, one of the like risks that they had to mention on the bag was anal leakage.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like the artificial sweeteners where your stomach is like, nope, you're not staying in my body.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so those lasted, I don't know, maybe 6 months that people were trying those things and then they were like, never mind.
I'm sure they lost weight with that anal leakage.
Yeah, the anal leakage is one way to lose weight. Of course, it's all like water and maybe a little bit of your soul. But
yeah, you want to smell like anal leakage during your day.
So terrible.
With these jelly beans.
Yeah, with these and have some jelly beans. See, another diet for me was, when I first moved out from my parents, I was really poor and all I could afford was Top Ramen. And I mean, I got really skinny and I lost like half of my hair.
Oh no.
So I was not getting adequate nutrition. No. And I think like the sodium, I don't know, but like I lost half my hair and I got really thin. And I remember my mom was like, "Oh, why are you losing weight? Why?" And I was like, "I'm not trying to, Mom. I can't afford food right now." And she was like, "Oh my God," and went and took me food shopping. But so that's not really a technical diet, but it happened.
But it happened, definitely.
And ironically, while it was happening, I would run into people and they'd be like, "Oh, you look so good." Because I was losing weight. And I'm like, I'm literally hungry.
I'm starving myself.
I'm literally fucking hungry.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that I look great.
Yeah.
Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I'm very careful when it comes to complimenting somebody. Like if I know they're on a weight loss journey, then I'll like say something to praise what they're doing. Like I can tell the work that you're doing is paying off, but I will never say like, "Oh, you look like you've been losing weight." Or I try to like word or phrase my words very differently. So it's not like, "Oh, you're losing weight," but it's like, "Oh, it seems like you're achieving your goals."
Exactly. You're achieving your goal.
Yeah. So it's not like if somebody's not trying to lose weight and they're just eating or they can't. Yeah. So it's like trying to frame it so it's not triggering, but yeah, I don't know.
It's really hard to do because if someone has that goal and they're working really hard toward it, you want to acknowledge it. And at the same time, it's so toxic to be like, thinner is better, smaller is always better, and to assume that something is good just because someone is getting smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is something to think about, everybody. We'll talk a bit more about that later.
Yes.
Then my mom had a heart attack when I was like 25. And they said it was a hormonal heart attack.
Oh.
Which, who knows? She didn't have any blockages, but she got like really upset in a conversation with somebody and had a heart attack. Anyways, and then after the heart attack, it became clear that she had diabetes, which was new. And so then there were all these like, here's what you're supposed to eat for diabetes. And so then I changed my diet to try and prevent getting diabetes. Because I was so afraid of that. But what I did was I started like cooking all these expensive whole foods from scratch in my house, which is lovely. But I also gained weight because I was just eating a lot more.
Yeah.
Sure, they were like whole grains, but they were, it was a lot more food. Later in my life, I did a vegan diet for 3 years, which was... I read some books about like the health benefits and really for me a lot of it was the animal welfare issue because I'm a big animal lover. I work with animals when I'm not at a podcast studio. And I felt like it was a way that I could make a difference, and yet I was just always hungry for like 3 years. I was always hungry. I mean, my hair and my skin looked great because of all the vegetables. Because I was doing it like really clean, vegan. But I was just like, all I could think about all day was what I was going to eat next and like making it. Because that was like 10 years ago before there was all this vegan food available everywhere. So if you were vegan, you had to make your shit. Nobody was just selling that shit to you. So that was one.
And you have a plate full of broccoli. You're going to be hungry in an hour.
Exactly. And you know it. So your brain is just like always like, okay, what will I eat next? What will I eat next? And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. Then I've done low carb and I did keto last year, which was, so I went through like, I think after the vegan thing, I had done some reading and done some research and done some soul searching and was like, I'm done with dieting. I don't think it's healthy. I think it's bad for you. And I know it's bad for me mentally. And so I decided to jack out of that system. But then I had a partner who really wanted to lose weight and really wanted to do a keto diet. And it's pretty hard to not have the same diet with somebody in your house. So I was like, okay, sure. I'm going to do this. We're going to do this. And then what it did was it kind of like kicked into gear all these like old diet culture, eating disorder-y, weird thought patterns that I have. And it was like, fuck, man, I'm counting again how many carbs have I had today? How many calories have I had today? How many, like everything. So that was part of why we're even talking now, was that I kind of dipped my toe back in and it sort of took over and it was not awesome.
It's scary when you, reintroduce yourself to that and you think you're going to be able to be healthier or it's going to be different, but it never will be. It's you never get over that side of yourself. It never changes. You have those same minds or that same mindset and those same experiences no matter what or how long it's been since the beginning.
Yeah, it's crazy. It just like came right back. It's like, oh, okay, this is how. And I think the worst thing about it was this feeling that if I had not met the targets of this diet, that I was a failure. And it was day to day. Like, oh, you just went over 25 grams of carbohydrates for the day. God, you're just so terrible. You're a failure, right? And then now I feel bad about myself. Now I don't want to go out because I feel like I'm bad. Now I don't want to do things I enjoy. I don't have levity because I'm sitting here in this state of depressed oppression from my fucking diet.
Yeah. Or this pair of pants that fit me great this morning feel like an inch off this afternoon because I went 20 grams over my carbs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was really hard for me to realize that I was still fucking in it. I'm still in it.
Yep.
And then I looked back and I was like, actually, I've been in it for so long, because I looked back and I was like, I didn't think of these things as diets, but they were fucking diets.
Yeah.
And I was counting things out, and I was basing my self-esteem on whether or not I had stuck with whatever the plan was. You know? Yeah. So I call it diet math. So have you ever heard, there's an article that came out like a year or two ago about hair math for women, which I was like, and it sounds weird, but it was really interesting. And it was talking about like how much we have to think about which day we should wash our hair, what we should do. Like, do I work out today because I don't want to wash my hair today, but I have a meeting and I want to look really good.
Yeah.
So like all this fucking math about managing our hair and like which days get the wash and which days we can do what activities because of how it's going to affect our hair.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the dieting. And so I was thinking it's like this middle of the day, how many calories do I have left for dinner? Right?
Yeah.
Oh shit, I'm going to count them up. I had like 150, 60 for that banana, 120 for the peanut butter. Da, 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 da. Oh shit, I only have 400 calories left for dinner.
Yeah.
Right.
Or I get a stick of broccoli.
Yeah.
Or a stick of asparagus for dinner.
Yeah. And, you know, which is sometimes the result. Also, this like, maybe if I poop, I'll weigh less. Do you relate to that?
I do. So I was reading these notes earlier and I laughed my ass off because, so give a little backstory. My partner right now is trying to do a healthy lifestyle and lose some weight and reach some goals of his. And he bought this fancy ass like $500 scale, which I was super nervous about bringing it in. But I was like, okay, I'm going to like be aware of my past and not weigh myself every day, but weigh myself periodically. So I wanted to test myself. And so I weighed myself in the morning and then I pooped. Like, this was it within a 10-minute period. Weighed myself, pooped, weighed myself again, and I gained weight. I went down and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how does that happen? I did not eat anything at all this morning, but I pooped and I gained weight. So that is bullshit. But I laughed so hard when I read that point because I was like, nope, doesn't
work.
You can poop and still gain weight.
I know. And like, sadly, I've been like, and those mornings were like, oh no, the scale went up. And I'm like, maybe if I poop, it'll go down. Even though I know it's not going to, but
it can go up.
But it's just like this desperation for the number to go down, because if the number goes down, then I'm good.
Yeah.
And if the number is higher than this arbitrary line I've set in my head, I'm bad.
Yep.
Right? Let me tell you a story. I was really excited to buy a new clit sucking toy, so I went to the world's largest online sex toy retailer, and I found hundreds of options with no indication which ones are quality and which ones are right for me. So I had to make my best guess. I ordered the toy, got it in the mail, super excited to try it, and bummer. It's way too strong, even on the lowest setting. Turns out I can't even use it, and I wasted $80. So I throw it in my nightstand, and a couple months later, I look to discover that it has actually melted into another sex toy in my nightstand. I was so mad. I decided to start my own sex toy company, Joosi. At Joosi, we sell a highly curated selection of body-safe sex toys, and we test them so that we can give you all the deets about whether or not it's right for you, such as how strong or gentle it is, How loud is it? And how easy is it to operate? So support this podcast and buy your next sex toy at getjoosi.com. That's GETJOOSI.com. 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 And then it's, one of them is when we keep old clothes, right? Like these are my skinny clothes.
Yep.
And this idea that if we get rid of them, we're getting rid of our skinny self.
Yep.
Right? Even if they're like way the fuck out of style.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to wear this shit again. Right? It just sits there like taunting you in your closet.
Mm-hmm. I had 80 pairs of jeans.
Holy crap.
That did not fit.
Oh my God.
80 pairs of jeans that did not fit in my closet for 4 years.
Wow.
And I moved into a house, and I finally took myself to a mirror and was like, you do not want to be that person again that fits into these pants.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that person was. You don't want to be that person again. So you need to let them go. And I separated them on what actually fits and sat with them, stared at them for probably a week.
Oh, wow.
Had them in my living room. So my partner and I both knew it's time to get rid of these 80 pairs of jeans that were in my closet. And then found friends that I knew would fit. We have a girlfriend that her and her daughters are about the same size. So I knew it was going to 3 women in our community, like her and her 2 daughters, that would enjoy these jeans. And it was a wide variety of styles. So with her and her teenage girls, I knew it would spark them joy.
Yeah.
So it made it so much easier. But 80 pairs of jeans that I held onto for 4 years.
For 4 years.
Hoping that I was going to fit them back into them.
Even though that you're not joyful when you're living the life of the person that fits in those jeans.
Nope. No.
But it feels like almost, this is where the morality comes into it, right? Mm-hmm. It feels like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
To torment yourself with that.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. Getting dressed every day, looking at those jeans right in front of me. 80 pairs of jeans is a huge stack.
This is huge.
It's a decent a stack of jeans. Yeah. Yeah, it's a torment for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think that this notion that we have to suffer if we don't feel thin it's just so baked into that, and I fucking understand it. I didn't have 80 pairs of jeans, but I've been there. So for me, I started to notice after the dieting got introduced back into my world that I would weigh myself every single morning. Mm-hmm. And if I gave myself a 4-pound window because of water weight and whatever, this range is okay. Yeah. But if you go above it, then you're not okay. Secretly, it was really a 2-pound window.
Yeah. I was going to say 4 pounds is quite a.
Yeah. But logically, I knew it should be 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but what would happen is if it was up, it would affect my mood for the whole day. Mm-hmm. I'd be I feel bad about myself. I'd be down. And that just fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Even if I go, okay, well, actually yesterday you drank alcohol, you had a bunch of salt. It makes sense that you have more water in your body right now, but it doesn't matter. The number rules all, and I feel bad about myself.
Yeah.
And then also this idea that was happening for me of one wrong food choice ruining my day, my diet day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you are on keto and you have a piece of bread and you're like, it'll be fine. And then you look up the carbs and that specific piece of bread on your app on your phone.
Yeah.
And it turns out it put you over. And then it's just like, well, now my day is ruined.
Mm-hmm.
My dieting day is ruined.
Yeah. Now I'm trying to work myself back into ketosis.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't do anything else or, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And I hate that. I hate this diet math. I hate living under the tyranny of these numbers deciding how I feel about myself.
Yep.
I mean, these numbers decide how we feel about ourselves. They decide how we behave and how we treat ourselves.
Yep.
And it's just so much deeper than just like, for many of us, not for everyone, but for many of us, it's so much deeper than just weighing yourself every day.
Yep.
It's really, really complex. Yeah. All right. I think that this is a really good time to make a fucking important point, which is we are talking about toxic, dangerous, for some people, life-ending diet culture and stuff that is really fucking hard.
Yeah.
And we are connecting over our shared experience and supporting each other through it.
Yep.
But not promoting these ideas.
Abso-fucking-lutely not.
So yeah, to be 100% clear,
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about that we were counting our carbs for keto, or we were, we are describing a difficult experience that we had and connecting over it. We are not in any way trying to encourage you or anyone else to do that.
No.
So yeah, I just want to make that clear.
Yep.
And then I also want to say we had accidentally, our computer died in the middle of the podcast and we went on for 20 glorious fucking minutes of podcasting that you guys are never going to hear because the computer died.
Yes, it did.
So we're going to just go on with the story and try to go back to where we were. But I just want to let you know if it feels a little bit abrupt right now, that's what happened.
Mm-hmm. It was the perfect time for a potty break.
It was. We both had to pee.
Yep.
It was,
Worked out.
The gods were looking out for us.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll pick up where I left off, which was I was talking about all the fucking diet math
Mm-hmm.
and how much of your brain is occupied by diet math.
Mm-hmm.
I am sitting at my desk. I could be doing amazing things for my startup and changing the world. But what I'm trying to figure out is how many grams of sugar did that granola bar have in it?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the absurdity of this book, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier now. You can scan the barcode.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to enter in every little thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still as bad. It's still so bad.
Yeah. It's
Still so bad.
It's just, yeah, it's a way to be obsessed and to question your own value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when I realized how much of the shit I was actually doing, I decided I needed to do a detox. So I read this book that I had been hearing about that was recommended to me, which was called Intuitive Eating. Now, it was written by 2 dietitians, and it is just filled with peer-reviewed research. Absolutely impeccably researched book. Strong, solid foundation. And they basically say something that we already know, and it's fucking profound,
Yeah.
which is dieting is bad for you.
Weird.
Yeah. And they're like, stop dieting and you'll have better health outcomes.
Mm.
We know this. The research bears it out.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're still dieting,
Yep.
right? So I just find myself kind of flabbergasted that we're at this moment in time when we've known for a damn long time now that dieting isn't good for you. And at the very least, if you wanted to put thinness on a pedestal, we know that over time it tends to result in weight gain.
Yep.
But overall, it's not linked to positive health outcomes.
No.
So, okay, how is it also linked to virtuousness then? Right? For what? For who? But I think this is where they got into something that was a new concept to me that really kind of blew my mind, which was we all have this fantasy of this skinny self that we will someday be. So it tends to be that we have a certain weight, like a weight that we were at a certain time, or a weight that we decided was our ideal weight.
Yeah.
And that we believe that when we are this weight, we will get the kind of sexual attention that we want. We will feel confident. We will feel free and confident enough to do the things that we actually want to do. We believe that people will treat us differently at this weight, and that we're going to feel differently in our own skin. And that we all sort of have this fantasy skinny self that we're connected to that keeps us addicted to the diet culture. And this resonated so fucking strongly with me. It just was like, fuck me, it's true. It's fucking true. Do you relate to this?
I do. Yeah, I do. In the previous recording, I want to go back to, this is where you brought up your story of your past with your ex-husband.
Yes.
And I thought that was very important. So I want to make sure we don't miss that.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good point, or a good spot to bring that up.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's an example of what I mean. So I was married to an alcoholic for 10 years. And I don't know, it was probably 5 to 7 years in when it was like, got really bad. And it somehow, coincidentally, linked up with when I became vegan and started to go to the gym 4 days a week, like religiously.
Yeah.
And I did all the things you're supposed to do. I was eating the most virtuous, the most healthy fucking diet you could eat. I was going to the gym. I was getting a ton of cardio. I was doing a ton of weightlifting. I was in shape. I was healthy as fuck. And my partner was still an alcoholic. And my life was still not good. And I had believed, which I didn't realize it until I got there, that I had believed somehow that if I could just be virtuous enough to be thin and quote unquote healthy, that my life would come together.
Yeah.
Because this is what we're taught. Like, this is what the movies and the TV shows say. It's like, oh, well, then you lose weight and you become the perfect weight and then everything just comes together. And I remember being like, fuck me, dude. Like, I am vegan. I'm forgoing the wonders of butter and bacon.
Yeah.
Right? And all the change that I wanted didn't happen because my subconscious hope was that I could inspire my alcoholic husband into taking care of himself. So I thought, if I can be the most healthy person that I can be, he will see it and he will be around it, and then he will become healthy too.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
No.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Nope.
It was a really sad for me to realize that and to know how much hope I had put into this. And quite frankly, it's sad to know how much pressure I had put on myself.
Yeah, for being responsible for his need to change or his happiness. Yeah.
Exactly. Like that if I am perfect, it will change him, which I'm a smart person. I know that's not true, but it was a hook for me subconsciously, and it controlled years of my life.
Yeah. I think it's a good point just outside of diet culture. Like, no matter what the fuck you do to make your life better, your partner who has these negative bullshit tendencies will never change and never catch on to that. They will never change. I think that alone is just a good point in relationship advice. A really good point.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. You can't change people.
No.
You cannot change people.
And you can't force them or encourage them to get on the same wheelhouse that you're on, regardless of what it is. Especially with a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, especially...
Or an unhealthy lifestyle.
Or
Healthy-ish.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just like you can't change other people by changing yourself.
Nope. Yeah.
And I suspect I'm off the grid right now.
Yeah.
But I suspect that for women, this is a very common delusion.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That we believe that if we can become the most perfect version of ourselves, those around us who we love will also elevate.
Yep. Yes. Not true.
Not true. And what pressure.
Yeah.
What pressure.
Not worth it.
Are you going to have eggs with your breakfast? Do you want your husband to be an alcoholic and die? No, okay, no eggs. No, I'm good. Like, I'm going to just have the tofu scramble. It's absurd. I mean, when you say it out loud, it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that's what it's like.
It's reality. It's reality. Yeah.
I laugh at myself. Yeah.
We get these ideologies and we convince ourselves that they're real and that's what has to happen. And we are so fucking good at convincing ourselves that that is real and it's reality. It's crazy what our minds can convince us to do.
It really is, because I have to say, with my ex-husband, way early in our relationship, which I how about red flags.
What are those?
He had gotten addicted to meth. And we broke up, and he went to rehab, and then he was quote unquote better because I didn't understand addiction the way that I do now.
Yeah.
And I know that is not
how that works.
Going to rehab does not equal better.
No.
And
addiction is still addiction.
It absolutely is. And so in that process, I learned a lot about being codependent and da-da-da-da. So I was like, I am not going to be codependent. I will not, because I would not try to manage or control his drinking, period.
Yeah.
End of story. Wouldn't do it. But I would try to be perfect and inspire him into not drinking.
Yeah.
Which was so insidious.
Yeah.
It was so insidious.
But it's different.
It is.
Right?
Yeah. I thought it was. I thought I had great boundaries.
Yeah. Could you sense my sarcasm there? I hope
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you are partnered with an addict who is using, you cannot be well and healthy with that person.
You cannot. Absolutely not.
You just can't.
It does not matter it doesn't matter any choices that you make or any positive environment that you're involving them in or surrounding them by. It does not change.
Nope. Even if you are also an addict, it still does not change.
No, it does not.
It is not an environment conducive to wellness. So
No.
I will just say that.
Yep.
Yeah. So, do eating disorders matter if you're not at risk of starvation?
Yeah. Yes, they do.
So I have a person that I know who is a man who is overweight, who is always trying to lose weight, and he will engage in behaviors and attitudes that I find really fucking toxic. Just like, hi, that's eating disorder. Hi, hello, that's an eating disorder thing, over and over. And he's like, oh, ha ha ha, let's worry about that when I'm too skinny. So this idea is that if you're not starving, that it's okay to have toxic belief systems about your own body and your value.
Ouch.
Right?
Yeah. That's
It still harms you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I wonder if that is like the difference between like eating disorders with females and eating disorders with males. Like, is it not true because I'm male?
I do think that they think that.
It sounds about right. Yeah.
To be like me just throwing some shit out there, I do think that men think they are not susceptible to eating disorders because they are men.
Yeah.
And it is not true. And I don't think people understand the harm of eating disorders. It is not just the after school special where somebody gets too skinny and they grow all the little hair that keeps their body warm, and they have to sit on a pillow because their tailbone hurts, and like that stuff is sick and it's weird and it's hard to watch, and we see it.
But it doesn't have to go to that extreme measure.
It doesn't.
No.
It's all about your relationship with yourself and your
food.
Relationship with food.
Yeah.
And if that is trapping your existence in this toxic fucking cycle, you are still suffering, and it is not harmless.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's me on my soapbox.
I am right there next to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I was trying to figure out, as a person who's worked so hard to not participate in diet culture, as I personally have, how did I end up being this person whose self-esteem was based on what the scale said, who was constantly counting my calories and my carbs and all this stuff, and my sense of goodness or badness, I guess is the simplest way that I can say it, was based on those numbers and where I was on that kind of chart in my brain. And so I was like, where the fuck is this shit coming from? Like, I don't believe in diet culture. I'm so above this. What? And then I was like, hi, how about your family? Yeah. How about the family that you were raised in? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it has to stem from somewhere. Yeah.
It does, because we don't just get these ideas. These are the most unnatural of ideas, quite frankly. The most natural idea would be to nurture and care for your body so that it was the most healthy, thriving thing it could be. So clearly there's interference from nurture when we come into talking about diet culture stuff. So for me, my mom was always on some kind of a diet. She absolutely hated her body. It was very clear. And the thing that was clear to me as from very young, I think 5 or 6, I have these little like video snippets in my brain of memories, but was that my mom's size was something that was wrong with her, and it was something that she needed to fix. And just
That's a really young age to have that thought.
Yeah.
Really young age.
Yeah, and to be like, okay, so because she got some new diet that they sent in the mail. It was like a bunch of stupid bars and milkshakes or whatever in a box, and I was asking my dad about it, and he's like, this is what mom's going to eat. And I'm like, why doesn't mom eat the same things that we eat? It's like, well, because she's trying to lose weight. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like, well, because she wants to lose weight. And I just remember being like, huh?
Yeah.
And like, it was very confusing. But from that point forward, it was clear to me that my mom's size was a problem, and that it was her job to make it a priority to be working on changing her size. So that was just, that to me is like kind of profoundly sad.
Yeah. Can I ask, like, what number are you of, are you the youngest? Yeah. And how many children did she have?
She had 3 kids.
3 kids. Okay.
Yeah. So there's 3 of us, and we span out 5 years.
Okay. So, I mean, 3 kids can, I mean, 1 kid can do damage on your body. And 3 kids can definitely do damage on your body. And the beauty of producing children and bringing them to into the world, like there are scars to show for that. And like that hurts me alone. Like, just, I don't have any children, just to make that preference, but like I respect women and I love their bodies even more knowing that they have had children. They're bearing that scar and that love on their bodies, and so it saddens me when they're trying to reverse that.
It's it's a miracle of a woman's body.
It's not mourning that
that nubile body. Yeah. Yep. She had 3 kids. She had what she called it was a gut. So it was like a belly. And she hated that part of her body so much that like it was almost like it was something separate from her, you know? And when she would try on clothes at like, we'd go to JCPenney's or what was Macy's back in the day? It was the Bon Marché.
Bon Marché, yeah.
Yeah. And I would go shopping with my mom. And if the clothes didn't fit or she didn't like the way she looked, she would punch herself in the stomach and grit her teeth and say mean things to herself at the same time.
How old were you then?
Probably 9 or 10.
And dressing rooms are fucking small.
Right.
Fucking small.
So you're like in, and honestly, it's violence.
Yeah.
And I have all compassion for my mother. You know, and that's violence.
It is. You're suscepting your child to violence.
Yes.
At that point. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was scary. And it was so fucking sad.
Yeah.
It was so sad.
Yeah.
And I remember I saw this TV show. I can't remember what it was called, but it was one of those where they give people makeovers, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And the lady who was on it, who was like the stylist, she would tell people when things didn't fit, she'd be like, it's not you, it's the clothes. And she explained her argument, which was really rational because she talked about how every brand has fit models and every brand is cut differently. And like, it really, truly is the clothes. There's nothing wrong with you.
No.
Like the most beautiful women in the world look weird in certain clothes from certain brands because it's not for their body.
Yep.
And I learned to try to say this to my mom and like soothe her through the shopping experience. And it was really helpful. And it's very sad that I had to do that.
At a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be like, it's not you, it's the clothes. So, you know, and I'd go out and get the other sizes for her and I'd, you know, and remind her that it didn't matter what the tag said. All that mattered was whether she felt good in it.
Yeah.
But it was this experience of this, like, the person I loved more than anything in the entire world as a child, your mother.
Yeah.
Right? Hurting herself and rejecting herself like that was just so hard to see.
Yeah.
And it made a big impact on me. Yeah, she wouldn't like, so we would go on family vacations. She wouldn't go in the swimming pool with us because she said she didn't feel like she should wear a swimsuit because she was too fat. And then this is probably the most disturbing. She used to have like a long-term joke that she was going to use a sharp knife to cut her stomach off and call 911 with the other hand so that she just wouldn't have her gut anymore, but she wouldn't die. And this wasn't like something she said once. This was something she said many times, and she went into detail about how she thought that she could really do it. And it was fucking horrifying.
Yeah. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the extent to which she was suffering under self-hatred
Yeah.
from the system that we live in.
Yeah.
Was that felt like a good choice. So that, when I say this is kind of where I was coming from, it's probably not surprising that when I started to do any kind of a diet, I suddenly ended up in this crazy psycho diet zone, right? How about you? Do you have family?
Not directly. So my mom was always relatively thin. She had 4 kids and had that little pooch, but was always smaller in size with her frame. But my best friend growing up, my childhood best friend, I probably met her later in elementary school. I don't know how old you are then. But she was a bigger girl, and I've always been like, growing up I was always like really small, like couldn't gain weight, but it wasn't like we were trying to get me to gain weight. I just was a smaller framed child, but she was heavier set. And so was her sister, but her mom was always so focused on their size. And I watched that. She forced them to go on the treadmill every day for a certain amount of time. She bought like shitty food like soda and candy, but it was all sugar free. And so they were allowed to eat all of that. But my mom wouldn't buy any of that. And so I was very confused on like, well, how come they can have it, but it's sugar free? And then their mom is telling them that it's okay with them. But like, I'm not seeing like healthy choices. Like I was so confused at that time. But one thing that stuck in my head and really fucked me up with boob size, was that your stomach needed to always stick out further than your boobs.
Or the opposite.
No, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Your boobs needed to stick out further than your stomach always. And I was a flat-chested kid for a long-ass time. And so I was constantly so worried.
No.
Like, you know, when you'd eat and your stomach would expand,
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, shit.
Oh, no.
And so I was so worried about it. And I mean, there was other teasing about the size of my boobs growing up. And so eventually I did get a boob job. But that stuck with me. And it still sticks with me. Like, I think about that constantly. Like, your stomach cannot stick out further than your boobs. And that's, I don't know why it sticks with me, but it's so fucked up. And the shitty part is both of her daughters at that age when she was saying that shit, their stomach stuck further out.
Oh, no.
And it like now reminding me of it, or like hearing me say that and looking back, it's just like, I would love to take a moment to like sit down and talk to them, but I also don't want to. Like, that's so sad. But like, they grew up with that. But that same best friend, because I was so little in middle school, made this rumor that I was bulimic. And I just hit the mic. That I was bulimic. And I was like, nope, I like my food.
Oh, no.
I'm not bulimic. I swear. Like, follow me to the bathroom. I'm not throwing out my food. But yeah, just not directly with my own family, but like living closely with another family as a best friend. I saw that and did live it. I was terrified of gaining weight watching that family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of everywhere. It's very ubiquitous. I think so. A big impact for me was that my older sister's best friend in high school had an eating disorder. She was anorexic and bulimic, and it was to the level that she was hospitalized multiple times. So she was in and out of hospitals. And she was also a very popular and beautiful girl. Was really good singer, really, and so some of her behaviors became sort of idolized. And then with my sister being good friends with her, when they became close, she started to develop weird eating issues and weird body image issues. And that was sad. But at the same time, it came with this warning for me, because I saw this person whose eating disorders were so severe that she was scary looking. Like, she would get, like, when people are way too thin, they grow this really fine long hair all over their body because their body can't insulate because it doesn't have enough fat.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's like the hair you imagine on a spider.
Yeah.
It looks like that.
Yeah.
And it's unattractive and it's scary and it's weird. And so I had this like stark reminder that this was a serious thing, but at the same time, my sister, who I idolized more than anyone in the world, was kind of mimicking some of the behaviors of this person. And so I was like, well, maybe I should starve myself. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do. So I went through a phase of, I was trying to eat less than 500 calories a day.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was, I think, my sophomore year in high school. And it was a short phase, but it was a phase. And then in the midst of this phase, I was in health class, and they were like, oh, we have this project where you're going to document every single thing you eat.
Oh.
And put it in a sheet, and then we're going to analyze it and see if you're healthy or not. And I was like, oh my God. And so that made it worse. Like, that made me want to eat less.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did that project and I turned it in and I got called into
Oh,
the counselor's office.
yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? And they're like, well, we saw.
Did I eat too much?
Yeah. They're like, we saw your diet log and you're not eating enough food and we're concerned that you have an eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, no, I don't. I'm fine. I just didn't put everything in there. It's, everything's good. And they're like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And they were really nice and good on them. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
good on them for doing something. But and actually it did make me be like, I don't want to do that because I was like embarrassed.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be called out like that or like watched like that. So, but yeah. So, I mean, these are the ways that diet culture affects us because it spreads like a spider web. It's not just coming from Hollywood. It's not just coming from the fashion world. Like it's coming laterally from every direction from people in your life. And it's so dangerous and you have to be so careful what you surround yourself with. So yeah,
I heard a comment from somebody super close to me about somebody else. And they were talking about how much weight they've gained. And they were talking about their daughter, about how much weight they've gained and teasing them about it. And I'm like, fuck you. Do not fucking do that.
oh my
Like,
God.
why would you say that to your daughter? And they were like, oh, well, but she did gain a bunch of weight. But she says she's eating healthy. And I'm like,
no.
But you don't say that. Like,
No.
period. You don't comment on anybody's weight.
No.
Whether it's like, no, what are you doing? And they had to give him a little like, that's not okay. You can't do that.
I think that's one of the biggest behaviors that all people, especially women, can do that can be helpful about this stuff is not commenting on people's weight in the sense of connecting thinness with positivity.
Yeah.
So to say, oh, you look great. You look like you've lost weight. Like,
no, not good.
How about, like, that dress looks really great on you.
Yeah. Yep.
Just
anything relating to weight at all. Just leave it off the fucking table.
Leave it off. It's so complicated and it's so toxic for so many of us that
unless it's like, the person's been lifting and be like, oh my God, your ass is juicy.
Right.
Like, that's
strong.
Yeah. Like, look at those biceps. Like, that is it. Leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. But this whole thing of assuming that smaller is good is problematic in so many ways. And I think I would just really encourage people, if you see that somebody is smaller, don't compliment them on their size.
No.
If you want to give a compliment, find something else to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will say, I know that, like I was saying, a lot of people are flippant about eating disorders, but I had a friend in high school who died from anorexia. She died. She fucking died in her sleep because her body ate her heart.
Wow. Holy fuck.
Her body ate her heart.
Wow.
She was like 16 or 17 years old. And she had been struggling with eating disorders. And she'd been in and out of treatment. And one night in her sleep, her body just consumed too much of her heart. She was dead. She is dead. She's fucking dead.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. That's so sad. And so young.
So young.
And that's like, that is your, like, hello fucking parents. Like, yeah, you can put your kids in treatments, but, like, is there more that they could be doing, that you can be doing as parents, versus like just leaving it, putting them in treatment facilities, like checking in on them, and like how do you I like I said, I don't have kids. I don't know how you deal with that, but
I know that eating disorders tend to arise in situations where people feel like they don't have very much control over their life. So when there's a lot of instability,
and that probably comes from the parents.
yeah, which typically is parental instability.
Yeah.
It's often divorce or mental health issues with the parents. And people will come to the conclusion that they want to control whatever they can control.
Yeah.
And for some of them, that will become food.
Yeah.
And so is there something they can do? Yes.
Absolutely.
They can become a grounding force in the life of their children instead of a tornado.
Yep.
And granted, that might not solve the problem, but it certainly would help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it's really heartbreaking. Really heartbreaking.
It is really heartbreaking, and I don't know. I know because I knew them. I knew the family, and she was we rode the bus to school together every day for our whole childhood, and her dad is the one that found her. I don't know. I think about what that must have been like for him, and her family, and anyways, so may she rest in peace, and hopefully in this moment her legacy can be for people to take it fucking seriously.
Yeah, I agree.
I kind of want to talk about, all right, so we're just going to share some war stories.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, we are not at all promoting or glamorizing this shit. We're just trying to talk about it because I think a lot of you will be like, oh yeah, I know someone who was like that. Oh yeah, I understand that. I've seen that. Or I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And understand that the biggest thing is you're not alone.
Yeah.
Like almost all of us are going through this, and you can connect with other people and share and bond over that and hopefully in a healthy way.
Yeah.
But I think I had a friend in high school who was one of my best friends who was definitely anorexic. Another one, I don't know, white upper middle class, whatever. They're all over the place. And she was one of my church friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting next to her at church every Sunday, and her breath was so bad because when you're starving yourself, you get this horrible breath.
Yeah.
Horrible. And she would always have gum, and she was always trying to cover it up with gum. And I'd be like, it's not, you're not
cutting it.
It's not cutting it. I still really, still really brutal.
Yeah. Yikes.
Mm-hmm. And she felt like, she told me that if she ate gum, she wasn't hungry anymore. So she would eat it to like trick her body into thinking she was eating food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people that do that with sodas, but they like drink their sodas or carbonated any beverage with a straw.
Oh.
Because you get more air through that. And so it fills your stomach up more.
Yeah.
And this is not fucking ideas for you guys. Just
these are not tips.
No, please do not listen to this. This is so horrible. You should eat food, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would. That's one way to avoid eating, because your body would think you're full because you're adding all of this air into your belly.
Oh my gosh.
So bad.
Wow.
Yeah. So in college, I don't know how it started or where it started, but I started getting really heavily into working out. We got a free membership to the Y, and it was walking distance from our dorms. And then I started looking into like pre-workouts and found this diet pill. It was called Oxy Elite. It was I called it the purple magic pill. I ended up getting addicted to it. It gave me this like high energy crack feeling. It gave me energy throughout the day. I was like sweating and burning off fat during the day, but I could like work out and had the energy to work out as often as I wanted to. And it also suppressed my appetite. And I lost weight like that. It was so easy, but I was addicted to it. Point blank period.
Yeah.
And I told everyone and their mother about it because it worked.
Yeah.
It worked really fucking well.
You're like a salesperson for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody actually hired me to sell some other product that wasn't diet related because I sold that product so well.
Wow.
They were like, you should come do this. So I did that for a couple months and I'm like, I didn't have the same passion for that product than I did for this one. But I got so obsessed. So I would go to the Y in the morning to weigh myself. And based off of that weight, that would decipher how much I ate for the day and how much I needed to work out after class before going to work.
Oh, okay.
And I pretty much ate avocado and lunch turkey meat.
Yeah.
That's all I ate. That's all I allowed myself to eat. And I would work out 2 to 3 hours a day.
Wow.
While taking this diet pill. I was beyond pissed off when they discontinued one of the main ingredients in the pill because people had died
Oh my God.
from it.
Wow.
They were taking the Oxy Elite along with like Red Bulls and any other high energy supplement.
Yeah.
And running marathons, and they would have a heart attack. So they had to discontinue that part of the pill. And I was livid. I was so fucking pissed that all of these people were taking this pill irresponsibly and had to ruin it for me. But like looking back at it now, it probably fucking saved my life.
Yeah.
Like I was so addicted to it. I would buy like a 5-month supply at a time to make sure I never ran out.
Yeah.
It was so scary. Like my sister went on it, and she got super tiny. And when she was on it, I was like, "Oh, you're probably unhealthy. Like you're too skinny." But never looked at myself in the mirror.
Oh, you're like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, never had that same thought for myself. But like that is probably one of the bigger parts of my eating disorder issues. I have another one, but that yeah, I probably would have been one of those people that died eventually from it if they didn't discontinue it because my life was wrapped up around in it.
Yeah.
And it's so scary. So scary. Those weight loss pills fucking suck. Don't take them. They're not worth it. Just go work out or don't.
Yeah, I remember in high school, my senior year, there was a group of girls who I was friends with. They weren't like my main group. They were like my side piece group. And they all started taking some kind of diet pill. It was really famous at the time. I can't remember what it was, but they all like got really skinny. Even people who like didn't look right being really skinny, like who like it was like suddenly their head seemed like the wrong size and shape and like things weren't like adding up.
Yeah.
And then in the midst of that, probably like 3 or 4 months in, some law came down that like it might have been similar that like cut out some ingredient and like got rid of these whatever was working in these pills, and they were like so upset.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's scary.
So it is scary, and I think what's scary for you and I today is walking on this razor's edge of falling back into that and knowing how dangerous and toxic and unpleasant and unhealthy. Like it's not joyful.
No.
It's not joy.
No.
And it's not healthy. And we know, though, because of our past of having times of being really obsessive and really unhealthy with dieting and stuff, that we're susceptible to that. And so I guess I'm just curious your thoughts about living this existence where we're in a world where we're supposed to be healthy, but what that means could be so unhealthy for us. And
I look at it the same way I look at addiction.
Okay. That's smart.
that is never something you're not going to struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you are once an addict, always an addict.
Mm-hmm.
I was addicted to, I still am. I'm still addicted, and my brain still functions around what I eat.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it ever won't, but I just have to be okay with, like, I can fucking eat this burger and these fries. Like, convincing myself, like, this is okay. But you have to have that conversation with yourself. And I wish I didn't, but I know I have to,
Mm-hmm.
or I will. I feel like I resonate with somebody that does have an addiction to a substance.
Yeah.
Where I can't not think about it.
Yeah.
I do try on clothes. There are clothes that fit me differently sometimes and not, and I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
I wish I could get rid of it. I'm sure there's therapy that could help me get through it, but at this time and point where I am in my life, I view it the same way I do addiction. Like, it's part of my life, and I just have to positively work myself through it when I think about eating. Like, it's okay to eat these things. It's okay to not weigh yourself on the scale.
Yeah.
It's okay to, like, I fucking love bread. Eat a whole fucking loaf of bread. Slather an inch of butter on the top because you like it. That makes you happy. And reminding yourself, like you said earlier, that you did not make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's actually a really interesting perspective, and I relate to that a lot as you're saying it. So I used to smoke cigarettes back when people smoked cigarettes. Now everybody vapes, but back in the day, and I smoked like a pack and a half a day. I had a cigarette first thing when I woke up in my bed, laying in my bed every morning. I had a cigarette last thing before I went to sleep every night. And I quit in the New Year's of 2003 to 2004, and I haven't smoked since then. But it was brutal. And as you're saying this, I do think that there is a lot of similarity because what I remember about quitting smoking was that I felt like my best friend had died. And there is something about the dieting mentality that feels like a friend, that feels like an engaging friend.
Yeah.
And to actually abandon that would require grief.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And I think that perspective makes a lot of sense. And it makes a lot of sense for how I feel about dieting when people bring it up to me casually. If somebody says to me, oh, I'm not going to have cake because I had pancakes this morning. God knows that's enough carbs for the week. And I'm just like, you're triggering the fuck out of this little part of my brain that wants to kill me.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Wants to kill me. And it reminds me, I guess I think of like how like with the addiction to nicotine, how that was like a thing. And that's in my past because it was easier to let go of, honestly. It's so much less prevalent than dieting.
Yeah.
And dieting is like the most ubiquitous thing in the world. And no one's saying that cigarette smoking is good for you, but everybody's saying that dieting is good for you, even though we know that it's not.
Yeah.
And we know that it creates like toxic, patterns in our lives. So, yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it helps me process it a little bit better. Like, it just helps remind myself that these things are okay and those things are bad.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder for myself to just like, it's something I still struggle with. And
it's one day at a time.
I need to be honest with myself about it. And like the other day, I needed a juicy fucking burger.
Yeah. We were together.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm ordering some fucking burgers.
Yeah. Are you
at
in
11
or not?
o'clock a.m.
Yeah.
I need this. And we're like, all right, fuck it. We're in.
Yeah. Like, you just have, like, that's okay. And not feeling guilty about it is a huge step.
It's a huge step.
Yeah.
And it's okay, though. Even, here's the thing. There's there's the part where you order it and you feel horrible, and then there's a part where you can order it and not feel horrible, and then all that in between is the process.
Yeah.
And so it's okay to be like, I know that when I want a juicy fucking burger, I should be able to order it and not feel bad, and yet I do feel bad.
Yeah.
And just breathe through it.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to get there to the point where eventually you can order it and not feel bad some of the time.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is you being in conscious control
Yeah.
of how you treat your body and not having it become some sort of compulsive, addictive behavior that harms you.
Yeah.
So it's mindful, and it's this is what I want, and it's a process, and it's okay
Yeah.
for it to be a process.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. You know what we didn't talk about, ironically? What does diet culture have to do with sex? Whoops.
Well.
Oh, this podcast is supposed to be about sex. I forgot. Okay. Let's just touch on that briefly. I think it's obvious, but you know what? Just in case it's not. Diet culture affects our self-worth and our self-image. And those things affect our willingness to be vulnerable with another person, to put ourselves in the situation of physical, sexual, and emotional vulnerability.
Yep.
Big time.
Yeah.
And this fear, so this is one of the things that we are afraid that a lover might find our body unattractive and not want to have sex with us. As a woman, this is a familiar fear of mine. Even no matter how attractive I've been at different times in my life, that is a huge part of diet culture. Like if I have the right body, I won't experience rejection. Right?
Yeah.
And that if you don't like your body, you're less likely to want to love it, like masturbate,
Initiate sex.
initiate pleasure for your own benefit.
Yeah.
Because you're at war with your own body, right?
Yeah.
So I think it has a lot to do with sex, but we didn't exactly
No.
focus on that today.
No.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It is. I mean, like if you're so self-conscious about where you're at on your body, like how are you supposed to put yourself in a sexy lingerie outfit to come on to your partner?
Right. Exactly. Or even that the sexual position that is the most satisfying for you might be the least attractive.
Yeah.
Right? It might be that like, okay, when I do this and this, like that's how I can make myself come. But it's also not hot. And I also feel like my belly shows more when I do this or that. And so I might deprive myself of that because diet culture.
Yeah, I think it impacts it greatly.
Yeah, it absolutely does. All right. So I guess now that we finally got to the sex, we can wrap it up here. Thank you, Kim, for coming and talking with me about diet culture. This is hard shit to talk about. I think people who are best fucking friends for 20 years almost never even have this conversation.
No.
So I hope that those of you who are listening have this conversation with your best friend. Talk about it. Ask them questions about how they feel about their body, about what they do with dieting. Are they thinking about it all the time? Does it bother them? Get to know each other. Inquire, ask, and understand, because I think that you will really connect with people and feel less alone, and they will feel less alone.
And seek to understand where they're coming from before you comment too.
Absolutely. Yeah, without judgment.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, like there are so many, it's like a rainbow of reasons and ways that people function in this space. And we all have our own dysfunction, and you want to approach these kind of conversations understanding that there's not right or wrong. We're all different, and you just gotta love your person through it.
Yep.
Gotta love them through it. But all right. So thank you, everyone, for coming and listening to this conversation. Hopefully it was sexy enough. All right. We'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening to the Joosi Sex Podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, kindly click like and subscribe. It really helps us get the word out. And we'll see you next time.